Kip, what's up, man? It's good to see you.
It's good to be seen.
You're gonna have to up your podcast studio game, just so you know, because I'm getting
You got
serious.
like pro lights going.
I'm getting serious, man. I got a light there. I got a light there. I got one over there. I got a microphone there. I've got two cameras right there.
You got
Getting
ambient
serious
light.
about this
It's like
thing.
a dance club over there.
That's funny
got
because I had that light.
lighting.
When my wife saw it for the first time, she's like, "Welcome to the party." You know, she came in. How we roll. She said,
I
"What
thought
kind of
the same
podcast you
thing.
running over there?"
Yeah.
I
It's
like
my
your white
night
background, though. It's very simplistic and elegant.
That's boring. Hey, so I did a Murph. First Murph I've ever done.
How did you do?
Yesterday.
Did you do it with the vest? You did it with the vest. I saw it on Instagram.
I did it with the vest.
What was your time?
Doesn't matter. What
No,
matters
it matters.
is that
No, the time matters. Look, here's the thing. People are like, oh, the time. The thing doesn't matter. If it didn't matter, you wouldn't have tracked it. But I guarantee you tracked it.
Yeah, it was not good. Well, I was talking to Clint, and Clint's like, "Oh, my first one took me an hour, and this time was 50 minutes." I'm thinking,
That's pretty good. 50 minutes is good.
I'm not. Yeah, it's not gonna work. It took me an hour and a half.
An hour and a half, yeah.
Yeah, I had a really bad headache. So every single time I do my pull-ups, and then when I like bend over to do my push-ups, like I would get this like sharp pain in my
really?
head. Yeah, I was not
Probably an
feeling good
aneurysm.
yesterday.
It's like not a big deal.
Yeah,
just
I was
work through
probably
it.
dehydrated, and I just was gonna almost faint and hit my head on a dumbbell and die, but no big deal.
Jeez, excuses, man. I didn't
Yeah.
take
And-
you for one that came up with all
Well,
these excuses.
I had no excuses. It was like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I
Oh,
have
you
a
did
headache,
do it
and I
late.
wanted to go to sleep, and I said I'd do it, so I was up until 2 a.m. in the morning because I can't sleep after a workout. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I'm like,
I know exactly what you
wide
mean.
awake, going, no. Well,
Yeah. I think the fastest I ever did it was like just slightly over an hour, and I did it maybe
Okay.
3 times. I didn't do it yesterday. We actually did a 50-mile march as a
saw
family, which is really cool.
So did you guys think like you did segments, or you make
No,
your kids
I
walk
mean-
50 miles? Okay.
No, well, yeah, we did a cumulative total.
Okay. Got it.
So my wife and I each put in 20, and our kids put in the remainder, essentially.
Okay. Cool.
So it was cool because everybody pitched in, including our 4-year-old. And we just did it here in our field. So, let's
Yeah.
see, were you out? Yeah. If you
Yeah,
do
yeah.
like around the perimeter, it's exactly 1 mile.
Okay.
So we got 50 laps in.
Yeah, it's a good day.
It was a good day. Everybody's
Yeah.
sore and tired, but it's all good.
I love it.
Yeah, man.
And good thing the baby's not a baby anymore, because you guys would be
Right.
out there like getting the
Still.
baby to crawl at smiling. You're like, crawl, baby,
Do it.
crawl.
Do it.
What's wrong with you?
You're at 23 miles. You're not even halfway. Keep going. Well, should we get into some questions for today?
We're funny. Yeah, we're ready. Lots of questions. So our first questions, we're fielding some questions from the Iron Council, our exclusive brotherhood. To learn more about the Iron Council, go to orderofman.com/Iron Council. And then hopefully we'll get to some of the questions from our Facebook group as well. And that's at
Cool.
facebook.com/group/orderofman.
All right, let's do this.
Yeah. All right. Thomas Clark, knowing what you know now, do you have any advice for a man looking for a partner or a spouse? I'm 31, but since age 20, I've spent the majority of my years in long-term relationships and focusing on my career. While single for the last 3 years, I found dating and meeting new people difficult at 30. Mainstream advice is don't look and you shall find, but it has been my experience. You only receive the things that you focus on. Right now, I'm weighing on returning back to school for another degree versus spending the year focusing on myself and finding a relationship. Thanks for your input.
So I'm thinking about here where you said traditional advice is don't look and you'll find it. I actually don't think it's that passive when people are saying that. I mean, yeah, I understand that that's the sentiment, that's the notion they're sharing. But I don't think they're just being passive. I think what they're saying is lower your expectations of looking for a woman, and maybe just go and be around attractive women, like without any expectation of, oh, I'm looking for a wife and I'm looking to be married, and that I think is when you set yourself up. So it's not you be passive and just like hang out and wait for the beauty to come to you. No, you still got to put yourself in the game, right? But lower your expectations, and I think you'll have a better chance. Also, the one other thought that I had with this is like, make yourself like the best catch you can possibly be. And I've noticed that just becoming more attractive attracts more women, right? Like, and I'm not just saying physically, although that is a component, but learn new skills, learn how to communicate, lose the spare tire around your midsection, get strong, get in good shape, get your mind worked out, like have goals and ambitions, and like really just genuinely improve every facet of your life. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, or maybe not surprised, at how many women are all of a sudden coming out of the woodworks and are interested in you. And this is how it works as well. So I would just go where attractive women are, engage with them with low expectations of any sort of long-term relationship. I would definitely, as you're dating, look for potential red flags and address those red flags early and often. I would ask questions about marriage and long-term commitments and children and raising children and money and spirituality and religion and all the things that most young and new couples don't want to talk about, because you potentially rock the boat. Like those, that's actually a time where you might want to actually rock the boat, because if she can't hang, then you need to know that. And if you aren't willing to hang with her because of what she's got going on, then it would be good to know that sooner rather than later. So the best time to rock the boat in a relationship is early. And then okay, is this somebody I want to continue to invest time and resources and energy and attention into? But if you avoid having those types of conversations because I just want it all to work out, it's not going to work out.
Keep it smooth, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So have those difficult conversations, and you're much more likely to find somebody you're compatible with and is on the same page and all that fun stuff.
Right. When people say like, don't, what was the term that he used? Like, don't go looking for it kind of mentality. I think, would you agree that a lot of that comes down to not putting so much weight on it, right? It's like, if you make it so critical that like, oh, I got to find a relationship, then that's like overbearing. That's a burden. It's too much importance on it. You're going to come across desperate. No one wants to be with you because like, you got to have a relationship. And then it's unattractive and desperate, really.
Right. It's that desperation is so visible. Man, when I was early in my financial planning practice, I was desperate for new clients, and it was the hardest time I ever had in trying to get new clients, because I needed them and they didn't need me. And that's a bad position to be in. It's a horrible position to be in. But when I didn't need my clients, that's when I always got referrals and people calling me, people introduced to me. I didn't even know who they were. I stopped marketing, like the traditional marketing, and I was turning people away. I didn't need clients, and that's when they came out, which is kind of a shitty dichotomy, because like when you need it, you can't get it. When you don't need it, you have an overabundance of it. It kind of sucks, but if you strip away everything, it comes back to the way that you present yourself, the work that you're doing, the effort that you're putting in, and then that's what produces the result. It's not the fact that you don't need it. It's the fact that you've done enough self-work to be in the position that you don't need somebody else's approval, that you don't need their validation, that you've got enough going on over here because you've done the work on yourself to get to that point.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Desperation in yourself is not attractive. In fact, it's repulsive.
Yeah. All right, Luke Watts, what rituals, not routines, have you developed with your family? A ritual being words and actions with symbolic meaning. I have a young family, and I'm thinking about different ways to communicate what's important. Grace before meals is one ritual that we do daily, church on the weekends. We do Christmas this way, Easter that way, but haven't created anything truly ours. I guess I'm thinking as the kids and girls and boys grow up, how do we communicate the important values in a different way apart from speaking and modeling?
Yeah, I mean, speaking and modeling is huge. So I definitely don't want anybody to overlook that, and just your day-to-day actions. And as long as they're consistent, then I think you're pretty good. I think
that's more important than anything. Yeah,
totally. I think if you said last year the same thing that you said this year, although your son or daughter might say, oh, it's just dad being dad again, it's the foundation that they will turn to when they get older and they're out on their own and they're trying to figure their own stuff out. So let's not undervalue the importance of just being hyper consistent, hyper available, having conversations, having discussions. We do that around the dinner table. We say prayer, we have family meetings, we do a lot of puzzles and games together. We walk outside, we bounce on the trampoline. These are day-to-day activities that from the outside looking in don't seem all that exciting and glamorous, but those are where we secure the most victories because we don't do it just today. We do it every single day of the week, and that compounds over 365 days, which eventually becomes 3,000 and 30,000 and on, right? So that's where the emphasis should be placed. Now, that being said, I think specifically for boys, I think having some sort of rite of passage, and for girls as well, I think it would work for both, some sort of rite of passage could be very, very valuable. And I've done it with my two oldest boys because they've hit age 8, and then I do it every 2 years until they reach age 18. So we will have done it 5 times over the course of between 8 to 18. And these are things that we go, and there's a physical element of it. There's a mental element of it. There's a completion element of it. There's a representation of it. Like I'll give them or gift them something that is a reminder of what we discussed and what we talked about and what they accomplished. Anywhere from a hike to being gone in the wilderness for 5 days. Like these are things that you could definitely implement. And if you're interested, because I did see this question earlier, you can if you just typed in rite of passage on our website, you would find a podcast that I did. Dang, it's almost 3 years old now. That's crazy. Called Building a Rite of Passage. And I talk about the elements that go into building out a rite of passage.
Cool. All right.
Yep.
Thomas Zimmerman, when is it time to cut out certain people from our lives? In our case, my in-laws have been encouraging my wife for years to attempt better relations with her family, pretty much to no avail. Our oldest daughter has recently been manipulated into thinking that she would be better off living with her aunt, and she is struggling with drug addiction. In Canada, at 17, she is legally allowed to choose where she wants to live, although we remain legally responsible for her actions until she's 18. It's a mess. Police have been involved. My wife wants absolutely nothing to do with her family anymore. As a father, I'm at least attempting to communicate with my daughter. Where do I draw the line? Our hands are pretty much tied at this point, legally and from a relationship perspective. I'm keeping the door open in my own heart for the hopeful eventuality of a restored relationship with my daughter, but not the in-laws.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, look, no situation is going to be ideal in what you're dealing with right now. Like you can't have everything, at least right now, that you want. And Kip, I imagine that you have some things to share on this as well, just based on maybe some relationships with your son. I don't want to like throw you under the bus, but I think this might be.
Let's open the can of worms here.
No, I mean you've talked about it before, and I think it would be applicable. So. But yeah, I would just keep the lines of communication open to the degree that you can. Keep working on yourself, keep improving yourself, and keep encouraging your wife to improve herself. I think you need to tread lightly if there's certain conversations that tend to be bitter and contentious. Maybe now is not the time to have those conversations. Maybe now it's just about being empathetic and loving and supportive and kind and gracious. And if you know the conversation is steering towards something that you guys typically blow up about, then just ease off. Just back off from that. You don't need to have that conversation right now. And I know that there may be some situations that she's living that you don't agree with, that certainly you don't condone, that you don't definitely want to see her go down this path, but she's there. So let's not exacerbate the problem by getting in her face and being loud and being obnoxious and lecturing her, and just find a way to maybe coax her back into the foundations that I'm assuming maybe to some degree you've created over the course of 17 years. That's what I've got. That's an unfortunate situation.
How important do you think boundaries are from this circumstance? I'm assuming, there's a little bit of like, hey, we don't want our daughter to be living elsewhere, but in the same breath, right? If she has a drug addiction and she's struggling, potentially there's some risk there of her having that around your home as well, right? And so I'm assuming that you
for sure
kind of have about the importance of boundaries as well in this circumstance.
Yeah, I think you definitely do, because I don't know if you have other kids at home, but if you bring your daughter back and enable her then you're creating a worse environment for your daughter who's dealing with this. It may not seem like it because she's there, and that's good for you, but might not necessarily be good for her. And then you have other kids around, and it creates a problem. Then she becomes an influence, and it just could go downhill fast. So I'm not saying to cut your losses, but I think having the boundaries established and having rules for the way in which you will live. And if she's an adult, she's an adult. 17's young. I mean, there's studies that show that the brain isn't even fully developed till early to mid 20s. 17 is young. So all you can do is hope that the foundation that you've laid and your continual involvement to the degree that she wants to be involved will come back to her. Like, she'll remember these things, she'll straighten herself out, and she'll view you not as the enemy, but as an ally. I think that's really what you need to focus on. But definitely boundaries. Like, you can't have her coming in and stealing from you, or doing drugs in the house, or potential legal issues that come across or fall upon you. Like, you got to be careful of that stuff too. It's important.
Well, and that could affect your parenting of your other children. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
The consequence of this could be massive.
Right. Yeah. For sure. Yep.
Yeah. The only thing that really comes to mind is just the importance of having a stoic mentality, right? It's very easy, or at least it has been for me, to be very emotional and make people wrong. Like, she's wrong, right? She shouldn't be doing XXX. She probably knows that, right? And I think leaning back on the boundaries of saying, hey, this is what's acceptable, this is what's not acceptable, from a really stoic perspective. And then you're just enforcing the boundary, but you're not getting mad. You're not getting angry. You're not attacking. You might want to, obviously let them know why these boundaries exist, and there's risks to your, to your decisions, and it could affect us in a negative way, but we love you, and here's the rules, and you got to keep to them. And I can't stress that enough. Ryan, you've talked about this like numerous times in the past. It's like, when we don't withhold our boundaries, we lose respect. Our word doesn't mean anything. And I think, especially in this circumstance, she could get in a position where she's going to want to walk all over you, right? She's going to want to do what she wants to do.
Test for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're not standing up to the test and saying, no, that's not allowed, then you're not just allowing her to, quote unquote, get away with something that might affect your family, but you're giving her no stability. You're providing no guidance and direction of what's allowed and what's not allowed, because your word doesn't mean anything, because you keep folding over when she wants to do what she wants to do. So I just can't reiterate that enough, to be stoic and withhold those boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Tough.
All right. Yeah, super tough. Kyle Pickard, how do you set healthy boundaries and be more assertive with people without being a dick? As a recovering nice guy, I'm tired of getting walked all over, and I've been consistently working on this. Second question, best piece of advice on building systems in my business to allow more time off to enjoy life and build relationships.
Okay, so the reason you feel like you're being a dick is one of two things. Either you're not being a dick, but it just feels like it because you're not used to it. That's probably what's happening. Yeah. Or you are being a dick because you've taken it to such an unhealthy level that you feel like the only response and the only way to avoid being walked on is by being an asshole. So that's what's happening. It's one of those two things. And I would lean more towards, just because you're being aware of it, I would lean more towards you think it's being a dick, but it's actually not. It just feels like it because you're not used to standing up for yourself. So this is going to take a lot of practice, and it's going to take a lot of evaluation. Okay. And you can ask people closest to you, not everybody, just people close to you. Hey, like how has my demeanor changed over the past several months? Do I seem to be more confident? Do I seem to be more assertive? Am I being an a-hole? Like, am I walking over people? Am I misunderstanding? It's hard for us to see how we come across to other people. We have an idea of how we think we do, but we don't know how we're coming across to other people. So we can enlist only people closest to us. In fact, Kyle, you're in the Iron Council. You got battle brothers in there, man. So I don't know how long you've been in the Iron Council, but if you've been in for any amount of time, you should ask them, hey guys, like, I'm really trying to work on being more assertive and not being all walked over. Can you help give me some feedback? Like, am I more assertive? Am I strong, more strong-willed? Am I sticking up for myself? And am I doing it in an unhealthy way or a healthy way? They'll let you know. Like, if you ask for it, they'll let you know. And I hate to say this too, but it is the truth. You're going to have to be a dick at some time, at some point. And then you're going to have to experience it, because assertiveness is a range, right? It's not like there's this like one perfect place where you're assertive and it means that you're not being walked over, but you're being nice and kind. Like it's not like one place. And also, people are different. The way, Kip, I would communicate with you is going to be different than Kyle, the way I would communicate with you, because you're different and you receive information differently. And so what I might say something to you, Kip, and you're like, oh yeah, that's assertive. And I might say the exact same thing to Kyle, and Kyle might be, well, why are you being an asshole?
Yeah.
Because the other party that I'm communicating with has a vote in the way that they're perceiving my instruction or my communication. So it's going to take experimentation. And I've messed up more times than I'd like to admit. But every time I mess up, whether I'm overly nice or overly jerkish, I begin to find where the balance is. And then I become a better, more assertive communicator through trial and error, evaluation, and then outside feedback, so that I can know how it's coming across to other individuals.
Yeah. Well, and you're shaking the boat here, right? Like if we're talking about established relationships, you've been the great passive guy that always allowed me to get what I wanted in our relationship for the last year. And now all of a sudden you're saying no. Doesn't matter how you say no, you're being a dick.
Right.
Based upon our history. Right. So just kind of keep that in mind. And that's the unfortunate part too, because I think your loved ones are going to see it as a negative thing at first.
I think if you communicate it though effectively, I actually think they'll help you. I really do. Yeah. I think if you can enlist your loved ones, and when I say loved ones, it could be your wife and your children, and it could be battle brothers in the Iron Council, like the people that care about you. I think if you enlist them and you explain to them your motives, like if it were me, okay, I'm a recovering nice guy, for example, and let's say, Kip, that I liked you and I respected you. Just a hypothetical.
Hypothetical, yeah. I won't get
just
my
for the sake of argument. And I came to you and I said, hey, Kip, like I'm really trying to work on something that's been an issue of mine. Like I tend to be a people pleaser. I tend to get walked over because of it, and I have a hard time exerting my will and communicating my thoughts because I'm a little worried about how someone else might perceive it, and I don't want to be a jerk.
Yeah.
But what I'm realizing is that I'm not actually taking care of myself, that I am actually bitter and frustrated and contentious a lot of the times, that I'm not real fulfilled or happy, and that I don't have time to do the things I want to do. And I also feel like nobody listens to me. So that's what I'm dealing with right now. So over the next several months, I'm going to be doing X, Y, and Z to try to be more assertive and to try to share my opinions and say yes to the things I'm really interested in, learn to say no to the things I'm not interested in. And I was wondering if you would help me do that. Do you have any feedback or suggestions? And then if you would, maybe just occasionally give me a little nudge, like maybe I'm being too nice or maybe I'm being too much of a jerk, and maybe you, because I respect you, you can point me in the right direction. Like what loved one would hear something like that and say, nah, I'm not, I don't want to do that. I'm good. Yeah. Like they care about you. They love you. They want you to win, right? So they're willing to do that. But I would say this as a disclaimer, and I've talked about this before. If you're soliciting feedback, you are signing on the line that you relinquish your right to defend yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what happens when you say, Kip, I want some feedback. I'm also saying, whether I'm verbalizing it or not, I'm also saying it. And when you give it to me, I will not be a dick about it.
Yeah.
So if they're giving you feedback, it's going to be painful. That is the nature of feedback. Deal with it, because pain is how we grow and improve.
All right. And his second question, best piece of advice on building systems. Here he is walking over us.
Yeah.
Best piece of advice on building systems in my business to allow more time off to enjoy life and build relationships.
So here's what I've done with Order of Man. Document, and my financial planning practice too. Document everything. everything. So I'll give you an example. When I started the podcast in March of 2015, I wrote down the process of interviewing, recording, uploading, adding an image. I wrote it all, everything. I wrote it all down. Why would I do that?
All the steps.
All the steps. Why would I do that? I was doing it. I didn't need to write it down. I knew what had to be done. But I did it because I knew that at some point somebody else was going to be doing this. And I wanted that to be an easy transition because I didn't want to have to like reteach somebody everything. So now I could just hand this document over, and we've got Cody Lanham doing it. And I handed the document to him, and he had some questions. He's like, hey, I don't understand this. Why do you do it this way? Why do you do it that way? I clarified. He actually came with his own thoughts and ideas that are better in some ways, but we had that standardized document that we could draw from where he could improve upon it, and I could share my way, he could share his way, and then we come up with a way that works. So you have to have enough foresight to think, okay, I'm going to document everything. Even if it seems silly or unimportant, everything should have a document or a system outlined, because the next step is to begin to move into delegation. And that's really where you're going to begin to step away. Because Robert Kiyosaki talks about this in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you are a quote unquote business owner, but the business would shut down if you were not working in it, you are not a business owner necessarily. You're more self-employed. For example, think about a dentist. All right, a dentist, he's self-employed. Typically, a dentist is self-employed. They might own the business, but they're self-employed because they need to go in and actually have their hands in somebody's mouth. And if they don't, they're not making any money. Now, where they begin to make the transition is when they first hire a dental assistant, because now they're taking some of the load off. And then they bring another junior associate or dentist in so that they can take over some of the workload. Now they're becoming and moving more into a business owner position. And that's really what you want to get to if you're trying to maximize your time in other things. There's things like within this company that I don't do. Like I don't edit the podcast. Cody does that, right? I don't come up with the assignments for the Iron Council. Anthony does that, right? Like these are the things. There's even conversations to have new team leaders. I don't do that initially. You do that. And if they pass that test, then I get to talk with them, right? So there's all these little delegation components that allow me to do the things that I really enjoy within this organization and the things I enjoy outside of the organization too, like jumping on the trampoline with my family or going on a 50-mile ruck or whatever. So document everything, come up with systems for everything, and then gradually start peeling those things off and saying, okay, well, I think I might be able to pay somebody to do this now, and you pay them to do that, and then you gradually start siphoning more and more of it off, and that's how you get to the position you want to be.
Totally. The only thing, if you don't mind me adding for Kyle here is...
No, I do. Let's keep going on.
I'm going to keep talking. You don't need more time to enjoy life. Like he purposely wrote, he said, allow more time off to enjoy life and build relationships. I want to call this out just really quick because it's been on my mind. Of late, I've actually been focusing on implementing kind of promoting deep work within our company and the importance of it and the role that it plays in fulfillment and joy in life. And so because of that, you can enjoy life and fulfillment right now. And one of the most effective ways of doing that is really focused on not doing busy work, right? Like, and don't bleed busy work into your life and go home and try to check email while you're hanging out with your kid, and like draw a line, get fully engaged while you're at work. And when you get home, get fully engaged with your family as a kind of maybe an interim to kind of building these systems, is just really get present with whatever it is that you're doing. And you'll find just more fulfillment even through your work and your time with your family as well. So.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a more time issue. Like I was going to say you can't get more time. You actually can. I'll explain it in a minute. But generally speaking, you don't get more time. The Kip, you, me, whoever else, we all have the same amount of time. You can manage it better though.
Yeah.
And if I manage my time better than you, Kip, I'm going to be more fulfilled.
Totally.
And notice how I said I'm going to make more money. I didn't say that. I said I'm going to be more fulfilled, because I'm going to do the things that are fulfilling to me. And maybe making money or more money isn't as significant to me as it might be to you, just as an example. Maybe fulfillment for me is spend time with my family. So if I manage my time in the business very well, then I will be fulfilled because I have more time with my family. And maybe for you, and I don't think this is necessarily the case, but let's just assume that it's all about the career and business and making money. And if you manage your time better than me, then you will have more fulfillment. You will achieve whatever it is that you're after. So it's a time management thing. Now, what I said earlier is I said you can't get more time. You actually can get more time because you don't get more than 24 hours, but in a way you kind of do, because if I can hire you, Kip, to do 2 hours of my work every day, then I just created 26 hours where normally I'd only have, or I should say, that's a fine way to, you guys get the point. 26 hours, where you'd only have 24, or 24 hours where normally you'd only have 22. You get the point. I can buy time is what I'm saying. And I buy it by paying somebody else to do something so that I can go do something else.
Totally. All right, Chris Gatchko, where do high-level leaders get their guidance? Between Order of Man and Iron Council, you've created 2 communities where tens of thousands of men can come get guidance on issues regarding calibration, contribution, connection, and condition goals. That being said, since they are your communities, you don't use them to seek the same counsel. This is not uncommon amongst your peers in the self-development space or even executives on a C-level. So when you lead a community like this and knowing ultimately the true value that they provide, where does someone like you in high-level leadership positions find that same support system?
It's actually very much the same. And I'm not saying it's necessarily in the same place, but there's organizations, there's mentoring programs, there's conferences, there's brotherhoods, there's individual coaching that I purchase. I get this type of stuff in very much the same way as anybody else. I just pay for it. I find somebody who's doing what I want to do and has had success for themselves and coaching other people, and then I pay them typically more money, right? Otherwise everybody would do that. So to gain access to higher caliber individuals, you have to invest more, and usually that's in the form of money. So I pay them more money than what most people are paying in the Iron Council to have access to new and different information. So it isn't some secret. It's just you find the things that you're interested in, find people who are successful, and then look, when you reach that level of success, I've had plenty of peers and people that I've been inspired and led and motivated by, who I feel like in some capacity I've reached a similar level. And so in a way you outgrow their coaching. And that's okay. No hard feelings. That individual shouldn't have hard feelings. That's actually kind of the point. Like, let me teach you what I know so you can get to where I'm at, right? Isn't that the point of coaching? Yeah. And then when you get there, it's like, okay, well, you can't get me to that next level. You don't know how to get there. So I need to find somebody else who's gotten me to that level. So I have grown out of coaching. I've evolved past certain coaching. And that's not speaking ill of any of these guys. It's just saying they got me to where I wanted to be at the time. And now, based on where I am and where I want to continue to go, I need to find somebody else to get me further down that path. So I do invest a lot in conferences, in courses, and individual coaching to get what it is I'm after.
Cool. All right, Daniel Madison, when is it okay to quit? The new popular term is pivot, but for many, it's the same as quit, but sounds nicer. At times, we may need to quit something good in order to do something great. Example, Ryan starting Order of Man and selling his other business. So when should we pivot, AKA quit?
Look, I'm not one to mince words. I have no sometimes quitting is the right thing.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. That's the same thing. People do the same thing with failure. You're not failing, you're learning. No, you failed. You didn't accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. It doesn't make you a loser. It doesn't make you a failure. It just means you failed. Like, let's stop trying to sugarcoat all of this stuff and pretend it's something different than it is. Because the risk that we run when we do that is excusing our behavior and dismissing our poor performance. Like, if I just say, oh, I didn't fail, like, I kind of learned some things. And then it's like, well, did you actually learn anything? Because you keep doing the same dumb shit over and over and over again. Why not actually feel bad about sucking at something so that you do enough work so you don't feel bad about it? But we live in this society that is just obsessed and infatuated with feeling good. Life isn't about feeling good. I went and did a workout this morning. I didn't want to go work out. I wanted to go do whatever else, like have a drink or, like hang out with my kids or like 1,000 other things that came into my mind. I didn't want to work out because I didn't feel like it. But I went and worked out because my feelings have nothing to do with my commitments. I made a commitment to do it. So I go do it. That's how it works. And if I was bought into the notion of society that says, yeah, well, I just want you to feel good about who you are and where you are and body positive movement, not bullshit. That stuff is not going to serve you well at all. So yes, when you quit something, it's because you quit. Now there's a whole myriad of reasons why you would. Some are valid, some aren't. When I quit my financial planning practice, I sold my business. It was a valid, legitimate reason. I was no longer interested in it. I had found something I was more interested in. I wasn't serving my clients well anymore, and it just wasn't interesting to me. So I quit. That seems pretty valid to me, actually. Now, if I said, oh, it was just hard and I didn't know how to do it, I really wanted to. It was really a dream of mine, and I really wanted to make it work, but it was hard. So I quit. Okay, that's BS. That's not a valid quit reason. But they're both quitting. So again, I'm not one to mince words. Now, so let's say it this way. When is it okay to quit? When you're no longer interested in it. When it's not serving you or your vision that you have for yourself. It's okay. It's okay. Like if I remember I would get a phone call from clients and I'd pull up my phone and I'd see who it was and I'd be like, oh, I do not want to talk about their stock market portfolio anymore. And that's when I knew. I'm like, okay, I got to get out of this because it's bad for me. It's not good for my clients. I'm not upholding my fiduciary responsibilities. So I got to get out of here. And that's exactly what I did. You can call it quit. You can call it pivot. You can call it whatever you want. But the reality is I was no longer interested, and I found a path that I was more interested in, more engaged in, and I haven't been happier because I decided to quit.
Yeah. All about the motive, right? Or the reason behind the
reason.
Quit.
And don't BS yourself either, right? Like, because what you might be tempted to do, again, we're talking about mincing words here, is you might be tempted to say, well, I just really wasn't interested in it. It's like, is that true? Or are you just saying that because it's easier than saying you suck at it?
Yeah.
Because like I take jujitsu. The other night I went and rolled and there was only 4 of us there. Hypothetically rolled. And hypothetically there was only 4 of us there.
6 feet apart.
Allegedly.
Rolled, yeah.
Allegedly. Yeah. And I was so frustrated, man. So frustrated. And in my mind, I was like, oh, this is stupid. I'm not getting any better. I'm just not going to do this anymore. And like I was trying to rationalize it. Like, you're not getting better. You should be getting better. Maybe you're just not a good jiu-jitsu player. Maybe it's just not for you. Like, these are the things. This is it's stupid. Like, listening to myself now, I'm like, that's stupid. That's not rational. But I was convincing myself that stuff. And so you got to be very careful of the self-talk and the things that you're telling yourself, because it sounds like legitimate. It sounds real. You know yourself better than anybody else, even at a subconscious level. And your subconscious will do things to you because it knows how to make you feel really, really comfortable and happy with yourself. And quitting doesn't feel good, but it feels better than being in pain. And so your subconscious will make you quit because it doesn't want you to be in pain. Check. You're no longer in pain. And then it will tell you it's pivoting because it doesn't want you to be in emotional pain.
Yeah. Wasn't for you. Yeah.
Right. So you got to turn that thing off, man. It's a bad deal. So just don't lie. Just don't lie. That's what I said. Did you see that little rant I made in the Iron Council the other day about not lying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I had guys that would come and they're like, hey, Ryan, like I'm leaving the Iron Council. Like the timing is off. And I'm like, oh, really? what's going to change? Like every time somebody sends me a message like that, oh, I'm going to come back in like 6 months, and I write them, what's going to change? And every once in a while I get a message that says, oh, well, I'm going to be done with basic training. I'm like, cool, check. Got it.
Yeah.
Valid.
Legit. Yeah.
Right. Or somebody's like, oh, I don't know, I'll just be in like a better place. I'm like, you liar.
Yeah.
And it's not about me. Look, you can lie to me. I don't care. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It's fine. You're lying to yourself, man. Just say, I'm not interested in investing in myself right now. Okay. At least you're being truthful. At least you're not being delusional and fooling yourself into thinking that something's happening that really isn't happening. Like if somebody came to me and they just said, hey, Ryan, like, I actually don't like the Iron Council. I don't get any value from it. I would much rather hear that than, hey, bro, like, I really like what you're doing, and I think it's really cool, but, like, it's not for me, or...
Like, what does that mean?
Don't lie.
Yeah.
Don't lie. And again, it's not about me. It's not about saving me or my feelings or how I feel about you. It's telling yourself the truth. You know, like if you say things like, oh, you know, it's so hard to lose weight during the holidays because like all the sweets and everything, you're lying to yourself. Like you're making up little justifications. It's not because there's sweets around. It's because you lack discipline.
Yeah.
That's the truth. The truth is not, oh, it's hard in the holidays because everybody loves pie. No, it's that you can't resist pie. You haven't learned to do that yet. And people don't say that because it sucks. Right? Like, I don't want to look in the mirror and say, Ryan, you are not good at this. But I would much rather do that and then fix it than look at the guy in the mirror and say, you're really good at this, Ryan. And know deep down that I'm full of shit and that I should be ashamed because I'm not living my potential.
Totally. It's funny. I was talking with, it was just Nolan, actually. We were talking earlier. I had a phone call with him yesterday. And one of the things I told him when running a battle team is the entire process should seem unfair, like unreasonable, like not fair. And the example I gave him is the tall tale sign is if someone says, okay, we have our team call, let's say every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And the guy goes, oh, well, my schedule is really tough, but I'll do my best to be there. What? You'll do your best? Like you're already giving yourself an excuse to not have to do something. I'd much rather have a guy say, I will be there no matter what every time. And then when he doesn't show up, he clears it up, restores his integrity, and recommits to be there every time, even if being there every time is impractical. But at least it shows a level of commitment, right?
It does, and you're absolutely right. And I would also say I would much rather have somebody say, I'd rather have, instead of saying I'll do my best, I'd rather have them say, no, I will not be there on Tuesday because my daughter is graduating high school and I'm going to be at her graduation.
Yeah. But I'm thinking
not like
before
I'll
he
do
even
my
knows about that
best.
graduation. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
As long as this is what I always got.
As long as something doesn't come up, I'll be there.
Exactly. Yeah. So what you're saying is that something better might come up and you want to leave your options open because you can't commit to it. This is what friends used to do in high school. They're like, hey, bro, you want to come over? We're doing this. He's like, yeah, I'll see.
Yeah.
You're in or you're not? Which one is it? You coming or no? Oh, I don't know. Then no. The answer is no. You're not coming. Cool.
Yeah.
Got it. Now we can plan and we can drive on and you can do your thing and we can do ours, and that's how it works.
Yeah. And tied back to pies and Christmas, it's the same thing. I will be on a diet. I'll eat clean. I'll be healthy if Christmas isn't in the season, if people don't come over and visit us, if this, if that. Like it's all just loaded with a bunch of excuses and reasons. So then that way you don't have to actually commit or honor your word in any way.
Right. Only when it's convenient. You think about that. Like, oh yeah, I'll start that diet after the cruise that we're going to be on. Cause all you can eat foods there, you know, it's like, okay, that's fine. But just tell yourself that you're not disciplined enough. And you know what? That's actually okay too.
Yeah.
Like I know people who are like, no, I want to eat all the pie. I'm like, cool, eat it up and live it up and love it. and then just deal with the consequences that you're going to be fat. And that's okay. If you're cool with that, that's okay. No worries.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
But don't make excuses and be a victim of some other circumstance instead.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I'm big boned. No, you're not. You just eat all the pie.
Not your bone. That's fat.
Exactly.
All right. Frank Foreman. What was funny. The origin of the affirmation statement at the beginning of each podcast? Break it down. #Epsilon Strong.
I just wrote it because I liked it. I actually don't really remember it right offhand, like the full thing.
It's been a while. Yeah, it has
been a while. Right? I've actually thought about changing it. But yeah, I think at the time I wrote it, and it was uplifting and encouraging to me, and it was aspirational and things I wanted to accomplish and getting myself up, and what we do as men, and that you get to call yourself a man if you're doing the work.
Yeah.
Like alluding to the fact that it's not just something that is we're born with, that you have to earn it, right? And at the end of the day, after all is said and done, after you do all of that work, then you can call yourself a man. I think it's just something that resonated with me at the time, and I think I'm going to tweak it and change it or do away with it altogether, just because I like to mix things up for no apparent reason. So yeah,
but we all have it memorized. So why would you go change it now?
Just to keep you on your toes, keep you guys guessing.
All right, Jordan Schink, strategies and tactics to becoming a better critical thinker. I often find myself readily believing what people say, and I want to be better at developing my own opinions. This question was inspired by your conversation with Sean Whalen.
Yeah, I would say expose yourself to additional thoughts and ideas that conflict with yours. That's the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Is if you hear something, go find the alternative to that. If Sean says something, or I say something, or Kip, you say something, go find somebody who says the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Yep. And if you do that enough, like, you're going to start to think critically about, okay, is this person right? Is that person right? I would also say that we all need to get better about stripping our emotions out of interpreting information, because when we allow our emotions into it, it clouds our rational judgment and thought process. When I have a level of disengagement or separation from a thing that I'm interested in, I notice I make more rational decisions. But when I'm deeply, deeply connected to that thing and emotionally tied to the outcome, it tends to be irrational, at least to some degree. A great example of this is individual coaching. So guys will come up to me and they'll say, hey, I'm trying to, improve the relationship I have with my daughter. And it is so vividly clear where this guy is messing up.
Yeah.
Almost so clear that you're like, what is wrong with you? How can you not see this? And he can't see it because he's so emotionally attached to the decisions that he's making. This is actually part of the value of having an outside coach, because they can give you objective analysis into what is actually happening, not how you perceive it to be happening.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, I do that for other guys. I fall into the same boat. Like, if it was a decision with my kid, it would be different than if it was a decision that I was helping you with your kid.
Yeah.
So look for conflicting thoughts and then try to detach the emotional response or outcome and try to be as robotic and objective as you possibly can. And then just have fun with it. Just toy around with it. You're like, okay, well, let's take this idea. I don't know if it's true or not, but let's just take this idea. And what if we all believe that? And if you believe that, what else would you believe? And if you believe those things, then what would you do? And how would your life play out? And how would other people live their lives? Like, just play the what if game and just have fun with it.
Yeah.
No expectation, no objective, no outcome. This is what scientists do, right? They have a hypothesis. I think this is what's going to happen based on the best information they have available. But a true scientist should not be connected to the result. Because if he is, then he's naturally going to create an environment that will inevitably produce the predetermined result. He has to be disconnected from the result of that experiment or that process. That's what a true scientist would do. We won't get started on popular science.
Exist anymore.
Yeah.
Well, and Jordan, I think one of the first things that I do, kind of what you're saying, Ryan, is you remove the emotion. Is one of the first ways to do that is just stop making it right and wrong. So when someone says something, it's not right or wrong. It's Ryan's perspective of the circumstance, right? Because the minute you put like right and wrong, you immediately kind of go into the state of like boxing it. You're like, well, actually, it probably is right for him in this context and these circumstances or whatever. Like, just focus on trying to understand. Certainly when it comes to relationships and you're arguing with someone, removing that right and wrong becomes very valuable, because then you realize that you're just trying to understand. And there's a great quote, and I can't remember what it is, but like, the intelligence of man is your ability to understand someone else's point of view without agreeing it. Or without agreeing with it.
Right. Like entertaining it without embracing it or something along those lines.
And there's ways that we can really do that. Like, so much, like, this is what I loved about debate, like in college, was I would get so engulfed in the debate that people were like, man, you really believe that? I'm like, no, not at all. But I saw all these points that I like wanted to argue about. Right. So there's ways that you can really, and even try that, grab a point of view that you completely disagree with and debate it in your mind of how you would argue that point. And you'll come up with all kinds of great evidence of how you could argue a point that you completely disagree with if you're intellectual enough about it. So,
you know, what's funny is I made a post on Twitter. I was going to pull this up just yesterday, and Twitter is just, it's crazy. It's crazy. Oh, it's crazy. All right. So I wrote this. I said, if masks work so well, why do people who are wearing them get upset with people who aren't? If they don't work so well, why are they wearing them? That's all I said. Now, I realize that the mask is supposed to protect the individuals from a person who might be. I know that, but I'm really curious, like, what people will say about. Like, I'm actually fascinated with how tribal we've become over masks, and it's very interesting. Like, the comments are hysterical. You know, people are upset at each other and calling each other names, and then one meme will post this, and then this who agrees with wearing masks, and then the other one will say, well, here's my article that proves that you don't need to wear a mask. And it's just crazy. It is a wild, wild time in which we live. So
totally.
Yeah.
And the funny part is, none of them know.
Yes.
Why?
Exactly.
Because you read something that you thought, hey, you know what? That sounds right. So I'm going to make that my reality.
Thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
my thing. But I don't know. You and I haven't gotten in a lab and actually tested the effectiveness of.
Oh no, I have. I have done
mask.
that.
Oh,
I have done that. Yeah.
I haven't. So I'm regurgitating and assuming what I read was valuable. And what I searched for was what Google served up. And what did Google serve up? Based upon what I typically look up. And so it's just a reaffirmation of how I see the world, and I find the answers of things that I already typically believe in. So
yeah. Jordan Harbinger posted a funny meme. I'm going to butcher it, but it was this guy sitting on the computer, and he was like, I'm going to try to find the real answer to this and be as objective as possible. And then the next little image was this character, and he was typing on Google. And then the next image was the one that he clicked on, and it just had like a subtitle, and it said literally the first article that he had already agreed with or something. It's like, that's what we do.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that seems right. Let me click on that.
Yeah,
one.
that's legit. Yeah. Oh, that's funny stuff.
Oh, that's gnarly. I got to wrap up, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Sorry, guys. No, I do. If that's okay.
Yep, that was my fault for tweaking the time on you last minute. So
no worries. So
right,
you know, I don't know about you, but I know you've read this book, but The Way of Men, and I can't help but. I wrapped up that book just this past week, and I just can't help but look at what exists within the Iron Council, what you've created within Order of Man, within the Iron Council, within the Facebook group, and just see the power of that tribe, and what it allows, what's possible because of that tribe. The reality of it is, through being in the Iron Council for the last few years and being involved in Order Man, like, this is the tribe by which men can join to ultimately become better. And just the power in numbers, the power of standing shoulder to shoulder, having increased accountability, and being able to have even a soundboard, right? A lot of guys, we have a tendency to be a kind of alpha males that are solo, and I'll do it by myself. When we don't have avenues to actually bounce ideas off of, and a close brotherhood to get feedback and look for those things. We really don't. I mean, if everyone listening right now, look at who your friends are. It's by chance, most of them, right? They're your friends because they happen to be your friends in high school. And if you're going to be friends with them now, you'd be like, no, I actually don't like that guy that much to actually make them a friend. Or that's a friend out of some accident. In the Iron Council, it's a whole different story. You get to join the IC and you're with like-minded men by default.
Right.
And you choose a team of guys that you can relate to, and you can reach out to other guys in the IC that like might have common interests and beliefs that you do. And it's just the opportunity that creates is just super, super powerful. And I can't just express that enough. And not that, I don't know, sound cheesy, but thanks to you, Ryan, for creating this ecosystem that has obviously allowed me to benefit from it, but obviously allow a great deal of men within the Iron Council to become ultimately better men, and not better just for themselves. Not that that's their motive, but better for their families, better for our community, and be able to stand and be proper representatives of what it looks like, or what it should look like to be a man. So thanks.
Dang, anyhow, man. You should do a commercial.
I should write a review or something.
That was amazing. So, one thing I was going to say, and then I know you got to get going, is I actually joined Team Foxtrot's call this morning, and I think there was 10 or 11, 12 of them on the call. And it was just really cool to participate and be part of it, and to see, they were joking around with each other, giving each other a hard time. But then they also got serious, right? A couple of guys were like, hey, how's this thing going? And a couple of guys were like, I don't know. And they kind of got in each other's face a little bit. Like, it was just really good to see from that level, because I look at it at a different level now. But to be at the team level was actually really cool this morning, and a testament to everything that you're talking about. Absolutely.
Yeah, so powerful. To learn more, guys, about the Iron Council, go to orderofman.com/Iron Council. And of course, to submit your questions for future AMAs, go to facebook.com/groups/Order of Man and join us. And you can do so by subscribing to this podcast, subscribing to the YouTube channel, and supporting us through spreading the word, whether it's sharing the podcast or wearing swag and whatnot. You can also follow Mr. Mickler on Instagram and Twitter at Ryan Mickler.
That's right. All right, guys, we're going to get going. I had a great conversation with Greg Anderson. He was the police officer who recorded the video about his duties and other police officers' duties that just kind of blew up and went viral. His podcast will be available tomorrow, which is out of routine, but I wanted to let you know because that one's very, very important. So be on the lookout for that. Cool. And then we'll be back on Friday as well for the Friday Field Notes. But guys, until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.